Today's class is about Dharma, right action, and living your truth. Hello, welcome to episode 2. Here's our blanket. Excellent. Asymmetrical turn. Dropping and sinking up. Notice how so just notice joining us for the second episode next week. Namaste. Hello and welcome to episode 79 of Namaste Yoga. Thank you to everybody for joining us today. And thank you to all of you who have friended me on Facebook. You can look for me there, Melissa West. Or you can also, it would be great if you can like Namaste Yoga there too. I noticed a lot of people did that last week, so thank you very much. And also, of course, you can go to www.melissawest.com and feel free to leave donations there if you're enjoying this podcast. It really helps us to be able to carve out the time that it takes to put together one of these episodes each week for you. So we really appreciate all your donations and feedback. You can also leave feedback for me on the Namaste Yoga Facebook page, or you can email me like Mindy did. Mindy said, I discovered Namaste Yoga a few weeks ago and absolutely love it. Thank you so much for making this available. I have already done all your chakra series classes, the restorative class, love that one, and a few other classes since I happened upon you. So thank you, Mindy, for letting me know that. I look forward to hearing more from you. Also, you can subscribe to Namaste Yoga through iTunes and leave your reviews there. That helps us a whole bunch. You can also leave your reviews on YouTube as well, and all these things really do a lot to help get the word out there about Namaste Yoga so that we can share yoga with the whole world. Okay, so that's a pretty big picture Dharma thing, right action, I would think. Today's class is about Dharma. And it's going to be a little bit of a closing off of this last series of classes that we've done around yoga philosophy, and a little bit of opening into the next series of classes that we'll be doing on yoga stories. And today I will be drawing from Jack Hawley's translation of the Bhagavad Gita as a way of talking about Dharma. So this is called the Bhagavad Gita, a walkthrough for Westerners, and I quite like it. It's a good one. Okay, so go ahead and rest back, lie down on your back and settle in. So what is Dharma? Dharma is about living your life purpose. And we each have our own individual and unique dharmas. They can be grandiose or they can be humble, and probably somewhere in between. Basically, our dharma answers the questions, why am I here? What is my life purpose? It's a clear purpose for our life. Now, it's not that we have just one dharma for our whole life. I mean, of course, we're going to have overarching themes for our whole life and why we're here. But each phase of our life may have a different dharma. And each phase could also have multiple dharmas. So, for example, at this phase of my life, I'm a yoga therapist, a yoga teacher, an activist, a mother, and a wife. So when we practice yoga, we can help to reveal and live our life's missions. And this process will be a process of elimination, realizing what you don't want to do until you have a strong, unshakable feeling that this is my path. This is something that I must do. So I'm going to read to you some excerpts from the Bhagavad Gita. This whole book is about Dharma, about right action. And this is why I love it. It's very much about living in the world and living in a way that is fulfilling our purpose in the world. And so this story revolves around Arjuna, who is a warrior, and he's at the beginning of a big war, and there are the two sides standing facing off, and he takes a short moment to say, stop. What am I doing? I can't do this. I can't hurt all these people, and I have no idea what to do here. And so that's kind of the context for this story. And he receives a lot of wisdom and guidance from Krishna. So here are some excerpts that speak specifically to Dharma from this book. As Krishna watches the once brave warrior prince plunge into pitiable weakness, his normally soft eyes become steely, and he speaks. Arjuna, where does all this despair come from? This egoistic self-indulgence at a time of crisis is shameful and unworthy of you. You are a highly evolved, cultured man who is supposed to live a truth-based life, a life of Dharma. And yet your confused mind is unbalanced and would not know the truth if it hit you over the head. And here's another excerpt. The people who are ignorant of the true self within work as though tightly harnessed to action, working for their own welfare. But enlightened persons who know the true self work for the welfare of the world, unattached, ever helping to point humanity towards Dharma, right action, living a truth-based life. And then this is another point where Krishna speaks to Arjuna about his purpose. And do not think, Arjuna, old comrade, that it would be easier to abandon your present responsibilities. One's duty in life is one's Dharma. This essentially means that you have to live by your inner truth rather than your selfish desires. One must do one's duty, no matter how devoid of merit your responsibilities and commitments may seem. They are preferable to the responsibilities of another, no matter how well you may perform them. You, Arjuna, are a warrior prince by birth and training. If you now try to avoid your duty and mutate into a spiritual ascetic, merely because you face doing some things that you imagine are painful, you will be violating your inner truth, your conscious, your Dharma, which is the root basis of your life. It is even better to die doing one's own duty than to attempt to do the duty of another. Your very nature dictates that you perform the duties attuned to your disposition. Those duties are your Dharma, your natural calling. It is far better to do your own Dharma, even if you do it imperfectly, than to master the work of another. Those who perform the duties called for by their obligations, even if those duties seem of little merit, are able to do them with less effort. And this releases consciousness that can be directed Godward. And at the end of the story, Arjuna responds to Krishna. "O Krishna, my delusion has gone. Where my life seemed unbearable before, those self-created problems have dissolved. By your grace, I am shorn of all doubts. My power and joy have returned to me. My faith is firm. I am aware of my true reality and committed to my Dharma." So that gives you a little context for Dharma in the Bhagavad Gita. And right now what I'd love you to do is to begin a process of centering, of tuning into your own Dharma. So move your mental energy into your heart center. Breathe into your heart. And by coming into your heart center, you're able to look inside yourself and search for the true purpose of your practice tonight. So tonight, as you practice, strive to rediscover the intention behind each action that you take. So part of this is setting an intention, sankalpa, like we did back at the beginning of this series. Let your intention be positive and in the present tense. It can be like a promise that you make to yourself about what you intend to do. And then you will be able to open into this way of being. So take a deep breath in and let it fall out of your mouth. And gradually wiggle and stretch out. And you can bend your knees and roll over onto your stomach. So I think living your Dharma takes an open heart and courage and the strength of a warrior, just like Arjuna. So we're going to work with a lot of standing postures, working on standing in our truth, but also a lot of heart-opening postures to open to our true heart's desire. So our Dharma is very much dictated by our strengths. So we're never going to be asked to do something that we're not good at. So I'm never going to be a computer scientist or an engineer or anything to do with math. That's just not me. And so that would never be part of my life purpose. Okay, hands under your shoulders. Press the front of your pelvis into the ground. Roll your shoulders back and up. And you're going to inhale, slowly lift your head off the ground and lift your chest up off the ground. And then exhale and lower it back down. So let this be a warm up now to gradually warm up the spine. And inhale, lift. So on the other hand, I'm incredibly passionate about cooking and eating and food and in living a kind and compassionate life. And so part of my Dharma is to cook really delicious vegan meals and share them with my family and inspire other people to do the same. So notice what it's like to lift and open your heart to the world. It takes courage and strength, it definitely does. But when you're doing something that you love, something that you have a natural aptitude for, it's easier. Okay, then slowly lower down. Rest your forehead on your hands and just wiggle your hips from side to side. Okay, so we're going to open up our legs a little bit and open up the fronts of our hips. Press the front of your pelvis into the ground. Inhale. Exhale, lengthen through your right leg long until it reaches off the ground. And as you experience this posture, ask yourself, how could I be more fully myself in this posture? Slowly lower your right leg down. Take a deep breath in. And let it go. Press the front of your pelvis into the ground. Lengthen long through your left leg and reach it up off the ground. And on this side, see if you can let go of egoic attachments to how this posture looks in your body. And instead, ask yourself, what's the bigger picture of practicing this posture? So instead of how can I execute this posture perfectly, the better question would be, what can I learn about myself in this posture? And then slowly lower down and wiggle your hips from side to side again. And then bring your right leg up to your side. And just let that open up the front of your hip a little bit more. So when we work with Dharma, we're asking ourselves questions such as, why am I here? And bring your arms out in front of you. Keep your tail tucked under. Walk your elbows back. So by practicing our yoga asanas, we can open our bodies and all the layers of our being to the question of why I am here. Be open to that question. Slowly lower down. Lower your leg to the other side. And let's do the other side. Bring your left leg up to the other side. And just allow the front of your hips to open up. And then take your arms in front of you again and walk your elbows back. So sometimes it can seem really kind of daunting to ask yourself that sort of like, what's my life purpose question? And, you know, it is really a process of elimination. So what you don't like doing is as much a clue as to what you're supposed to be doing as what you do love doing.
I was wondering, there's a weird I'm recording a studio, and there's a weird tapping.
Okay, and then lower yourself back down. Take your hands underneath your shoulders and push yourself up and back into child's pose.
And then I'll take a shot backwards and then go nuts again. Except because we're recording, it's just a weird moment. Thank you so much for where we would be here.
Okay, and then make your way up to standing on your knees sideways on your mat. Take your right leg out to the side with your toes facing front and let your hip bones be level here. Inhale, reach your arms straight up and overhead. And then exhale, side bend over your right leg. And you can place your right arm on your right leg either above or below your knee, but not on your knee joint. So for me, my hand lands right at my knee joint. So I'm going to bring my arm up. And then open your heart. So this pose is called gate pose. And you can think about walking through a gateway into right action, into living your truth. So rather than living that in a big, humongous, I'm all done way, what would be the first step through the gate? And then inhale, come back upright. And we're going to switch sides. So this time, stand on your right knee. Take your left leg out to the side with your toes facing forward. Lower your hips so that they're level. Inhale, take your arms right up overhead. Exhale, side bend over your left leg. Lower your left arm down, either above or below the knee. And then open your heart. And really, because we have multiple dharmas for multiple times in our lives, you can imagine a series of gates. Some that you've already walked through, and some that you've yet to walk through. So when you ask yourself, what is it that you would like to experience? That gives you some clues as to your dharma. And then come back center. Take your hands underneath your shoulders, your knees underneath your hips. Tuck your toes under. Lift your hips up towards the ceiling and open the backs of your legs. And you might want to do a little bit of opening up the backs of your legs here. So I love that question, how can I be more fully myself in this posture? I think that's like a way better question to ask than, does this posture look right in my body? Okay, and then lower your knees down and step your left leg through so that we are doing lunge pose. Open up the front of your right hip here. Let your tailbone drop. Let your left sit bone drop. So ask yourself, in what ways has your yoga practice revealed your own dharma, your own true self, how to live in your truth? Okay, and then switch sides. So walk your left foot back and your right foot forward. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaks a lot about how it's more important to live your own dharma than to live the dharma of somebody else. So your dharma is going to be unique to you, unique to your own gifts, something that you're going to enjoy, that will allow you to feel fulfilled in life. And it really is only you that will be able to uniquely carry out this action. Okay, so step your right foot back, take your hands underneath your shoulders again, and reach your right leg back And then reach your left leg back. So you come into plank pose. So this is a nice abdominal toning posture, connecting you with your third chakra, your power center. So you have that strength and willpower to live your Dharma, to make your unique contribution in the world. And then lift your buttocks up towards the ceiling so you come into downward facing dog. And allow that to be a nice juicy rest. And then walk your feet into your hands. And make your way up to standing. From standing, we're going to do a balancing posture, and we're going to do tree pose tonight. I think this pose can teach us a lot about Dharma. So for me, I know in my own experience that living my Dharma, living my truth is really a balancing act, because as I said, we have multiple Dharmas that we live at different times in our lives, and we all do. So I know many of us juggle our work lives and our families and our spiritual life, and all these things are part of living our purpose. So it is a balancing act. So stand on your left leg, turn your right toes out to the side. You can choose to keep your toes on the ground, or you can pick up your foot and place it on the inside of your leg somewhere, either above or below your knee. So here's a trick. If you're feeling like balancing is maybe not your thing today, keep your foot lower on your leg. And then bring your hands in front of your heart center. And imagine your roots growing down deep into the ground, drawing up that nourishing energy from the earth. And then taking your arms up and overhead. So I think this is a lot like growing into your Dharma too. First your roots grow down. And it may seem like nothing's happening, but that's really important for the tree's development. And then your arms come up overhead. Then the branches grow and they reach out. Oops. Okay, and then release this posture from your body. Take a deep breath in and sigh it out. Okay, so shift over onto your right foot. Lengthen your right leg down. Turn your left toes out. You can either pick up your left foot and put it somewhere on the inside of your right leg, above or below your knee, and bring your hands to your heart center. And then eventually you can grow your branches up. So you can even consider and meditate on a tree's Dharma here, on a tree's right action and purpose. So trees give us oxygen, they give us shade, they're shelter for animals, for birds. Yes, trees, fruit trees give us fruit, yummy fruit. So all trees have their own unique Dharma. I'm thinking about how evergreen trees here give us some color here through the winter. Even the way that trees shed their leaves and change color in the fall. So trees create beauty in the world too. I mean, what a beautiful purpose that is, to create beauty. And then release this posture from your body and come stand towards the front of your mat. Take a generous step back with your right foot so that there's the space of about one of your legs between your two legs. Your right toes turn in. Your hips are facing the long end of your mat. So of course, because we were talking about the Bhagavad Gita today and Arjuna finding, can't think of the right word for it, but really embracing his own purpose, we have to do warrior pose. So bring your arms up parallel to the ground. Bend your front left knee. And turn your head so it faces over your left fingertips. So warrior 2 is such a great posture for right action, because Arjuna, in his role as warrior, had to fight. That was his purpose. That was his dharma. And we all have our battles that we have to fight in our life. Okay, so bend your left elbow, take it on top of your left leg, swoop your right arm around in front and come into side angle pose. And so here, I think sometimes our Dharma asks us to bend and stretch and reach. And you can work on finding your power here by reaching both arms up. This is hard. Oh. Okay, that's long enough for me. You know what I'm going to blame it on? This morning I stubbed my little baby toe on the kitchen table and I was looking at it in down dog. It's really bruised up. And I can't believe how much it's affecting being able to do a lot of things in yoga today. Okay, so turn your left toes in now and your right toes towards the other short end of your mat. And we'll do the warrior poses on the other side. You'll bend your front right knee. Bring your arms up parallel to the ground. Use your back muscles to keep your arms up. So don't use your shoulder muscles. They'll fatigue really quickly. Let your arms come up heavy and squeeze your shoulder blades together at the back to hold them up. Open your heart. And gaze over top of your right fingertips. So again, how could you be more fully you? How could you express more fully your truth in this posture? So of course your version of this posture is going to look different than mine. You have your own unique way of expressing warrior 2 in your body. And then bend your right elbow, place it on the top of your right thigh. Swoop your left arm around in front, open your heart so that you're side bending into side angle pose. I realize we haven't done this posture in a long time and I don't know why, I do love it. Okay, are you ready to connect with your strength, the strength of your uniqueness? I'm not sure I can smile and do this at the same time. Okay. Whew. Okay. Good. Whose idea was that anyway? We made it through that. I'm thinking, whose idea was this lesson plan? Don't hate me for the next one, too. Okay, so we're going to do chair pose, I think living our Dharma and right action and living our truth takes strong legs. You have to stand in your truth, and that takes strength in knowing where you stand and what you stand for, and all of that contributes to your Dharma. So inhale, take your arms straight up overhead, and exhale, sit back as though you're sitting down into one of those little bitty tiny kindergarten chairs. Remember to keep that natural curve in your back. So for me, that means tucking my tail a little bit. Check in and see what that means for you. In this pose, you want to sit back towards your heels more. Keep your knees over your ankles. And then inhale and come on back up to standing. Let's just do one more heart opener from standing to prepare ourselves for the next pose. Inhale, exhale, roll our shoulders back and down. And open your chest. Opening your heart center, opening to the possibility of living life from your heart. Okay, and then rest your arms down. Okay, so coming down onto all fours, and we'll move on from there. Okay, so actually before we do this pose, I want to share a little story with you. Last week I went into my daughter's school for career day to be the yoga teacher career, whatever that means. And it was really interesting, super interesting, because we had sort of a list of questions that they recommended that we answer. And one of the questions was on how much money does somebody who teaches yoga make in a year? And so, I think a lot of times what happens is that in our culture, our value is placed on how much money we earn. And I personally believe that, well, money is super useful, there's no doubt about that, but that's not the only currency that we can exchange. So for me, living my purpose, living my Dharma, and being able to be fully present in my roles and my relationships in my life because of what I've chosen to do is much more important to me than the size of a paycheck that I can bring home, obviously. So I think it's interesting when we think of Dharma to let go of our really strong cultural disposition towards what that means. I mean, life purpose in the context of our westernized culture, often and anywhere in the developed world, I think means your career. And really, your Dharma could be, like, I have a beautiful friend, Sandy, who she definitely watches, so she may be watching. Hi, Sandy. She's a beautiful artist. And so her Dharma is to bring beauty and joy and love into the world, and she does this through her art and teaching her yoga. So let your definition of Dharma be expanded beyond career and beyond the currency of money, because really there's so much more. Okay, come on to all fours. So all that to say that sometimes we got to let go of our head and our traditional ways of thinking and follow our heart. So lower your head onto the ground, and you can stay here in this pose. Take your arms around behind and back you. Roll your shoulders back and up and lift your arms up. And then slowly lower your arms down. Take your hands on either side of your head. Press into your hands to lift your head up off the ground. And you can sit back on your heels. And let's just do a little neck stretch after that. Maybe just gently roll your head around in front. Okay, and then come up onto your knees again. And even here, you can tuck your mat, double up your mat to have more padding under your knees if that helps to make that more comfortable for you. We're going to do another heart opener to really tune into our hearts and learn our heart's desire, be more connected to that. So let's take your hands on your hips. Roll your shoulders back and down. Draw your elbows together behind you. Tuck your tail under and then lift your chest up towards the ceiling. And pay attention to your low back. You want to stay within your own level of comfort here. Okay, and then come forward and sit back into child's pose. So in child's pose, I know I often feel like a little seed. And it was funny because before we started recording this, my daughter was showing me what it's like for a seed and then a seedling and how it grows into a plant on my mat. And I think that's really speaks to growing into our purpose. Okay, and then roll up to seated. We're going to do zigzag pose. My teacher Ninka reminded me of this pose last week. I actually learned it from her too. She's done some of the episodes of Namaste Yoga. You could look back and see them. Okay, so in this pose, your right leg is in front of your left leg and your legs create a zigzag. And you want to, as much as you can, sit evenly down on both butt cheeks. So that might mean raising your right hip or tucking something under your left hip, okay? And then you're going to inhale, circle around, and I just feel like holding it today. You can, if you feel in a flow mood, you can flow around here and go back and forth, kind of drawing a circle around you. But my body wants to be still today. Let your spine be straight and try as best you can to sit evenly on both sit bones. And come back to center. Let's switch sides with our legs so that our left leg is in front and our right leg zigzags behind. And just notice how different it is from side to side. And then again, if you want it to do that flow, you could draw that circle around in front of you. And if you want it to stay static, take your right hand to the outside of your left knee, look over your left shoulder. And then come back to center. And we're going to do tortoise pose. This is a pose that is really about turning inward. And I think when you're talking about living your Dharma, the more you turn inward through your practice of yoga and meditation, the more you'll be able to connect with what's true for you and how to live that truth in your life. If our attention is always focused outwards, we're going to get a whole lot of other information that probably isn't as useful. So in this pose, you place the soles of your feet together in a diamond shape. Your heels are away from your pelvis. You lift your knees and reach your arms through. Rest your hands on your feet, and you fold forward here. Lengthen your spine forward. Reach your sit bones and your tailbone down and back at the back. And then slowly come up. And before doing Shavasana, we're going to do a mudra for courage. This is the Ganesh mudra from Gertrude Hershey's book. And Ganesh is known as the remover of obstacles. And so it's very useful to call on Ganesh as a Hindu deity to help remove the obstacles to living your Dharma. So let's take your right hand palms turned out, left hand palms turned in, and you're going to inhale here and exhale, pull firmly apart. And it's said that this mudra is for courage. So you could choose to finish your practice here, or you can lower your hands down and rest back into Shavasana for our integration. So either from a seated position or resting back in Shavasana, go deep into your heart center. Feel yourself connect to it through your breathing. Feel the physical sensation and area in your body of your heart center. You may even want to take your hands and place them on your heart center if you're lying on the ground. But allow yourself to more deeply feel your heart connection. And as you go deep into your heart, look inside yourself to discover your own inner reasons for living, for acting, and practicing. Thank you for joining us for episode 79 of Namaste Yoga, and for allowing me to share part of my Dharma with you each and every week. Namaste.